Hello, welcome to the session on square butt joint on copper sheet of 2 mm thickness in flat position 1G using Oxy-Acetylene Welding OAW. Let us look at the objectives of this session. At the end of this session, you will be able to select correct nozzle size and filler rod, composition and size, gas pressures and flux, apply flux on the joint and filler rod, preheat and post-heat the job, manipulate the blowpipe and filler rod in an appropriate way during welding, clean the joint and remove any flux residue, check the weldment for surface defects, bead size and profile. The tools and materials required for square butt joint on copper sheet are copper sheet, cleaning solvent, metal files, nozzle, bench vise, wire brush or emery paper, chipping hammer, bevel protractor, copper silver alloy filler rod, copper silver alloy flux. Let's now get aware of the essentials of square butt joint on copper sheet. First, clean the surface of the workpiece by using emery sheet or a wire brush to remove the oxides and other impurities thoroughly. This is an important step to do because the oxides can interfere with the welding process and can cause defects in the weld. Next, file the edges to the required form to ensure that the weld is strong and sound. Then, select nozzle number 57. This nozzle size is appropriate for welding copper sheets of the same thickness. Remember that the copper sheet's thickness must be according to the gas pressure and the nozzle size to be selected accordingly. Based on sheet thickness, adjust gas pressure. Select a 2.00 mm in diameter copper silver alloy filler rod. This filler rod is made of a material that is compatible with copper and will help to create a strong weld. Now, select a copper silver alloy flux, which helps to prevent the formation of oxides and other impurities during welding. Always remember to use safety precautions such as safety glasses, gloves, and a welding helmet. To continue further, set the job with a proper root gap or with a diverging allowance, that is, diverging at the rate of 3 to 4 mm per 300 mm. Divergence root gap is vital because the gap will easily get closed due to the thermal expansion property of copper. Note that copper is the coefficient of thermal expansion. Also, the thermal expansion of copper is very high, thus it spreads the most. In this process of welding, never tack weld because it can create heat that can damage the copper. Also, set a strictly neutral flame the most effective flame for welding copper. Now, let's look how to weld copper sheets with a step-by-step procedure. Before starting with the actual welding process, preheat the base metal up to peacock neck color, that is, up to 350 degrees Celsius. This process will help to prevent the copper from warping during welding and ensure to maintain the temperature throughout the process. Next, apply the flux as paste on the filler rod and at the joints. Then, deposit the metal in the groove in one run with sufficient reinforcement on the joint using the leftward technique, the most effective technique for copper welding. The blowpipe angle, that should be 60 degree to 80 degree, and the filler rod angle should be 25 degree to 30 degree to the line of weld. These angles are necessary for strong and solid weld. Always keep the molten pool and the tip of the filler rod under the shadow of the outer envelope. This will help to prevent the molten pool from evaporating and the formation of oxides. Also, keep a helper to continuously heat the workpiece using another blowpipe as you're welding a copper joint. This will help to prevent the joint from cracking. Once the procedures of welding are done, do post-heating process. Post-heat the job to 300 degrees Celsius and allow to cool slowly. This will help to relieve the stresses in the weld. To wrap up the process, clean the bead and remove the flux residue on both sides of the joint to prevent corrosion. Also, inspect the joint for external defects, bead size, and profile to ensure that the weld is potent and intact. Here are some additional tips for welding copper sheets. Use a low heat setting to prevent the copper from overheating. Use a steady hand and a smooth welding motion. Do not overweld the joint. Practice welding on scrap copper sheets before you start welding on the actual joint to develop your skills and avoid any issue. Let's recap the key points discussed. Clean the surface of the workpiece by using emery sheet or a wire brush to remove the oxides and other impurities thoroughly. Set the job with a proper root gap or with a diverging allowance. Preheat the base metal up to peacock neck color. Deposit the metal in the groove in one run with sufficient reinforcement on the joint using the leftward technique. This brings us to the end of the session. Hope you have gained a good understanding about square butt joint on copper sheet 2 mm thickness in flat position 1G using Oxy-Acetylene Welding OAW.